So today is a very special day. Why? Because we have two of the most popular RTF kits on the market. We have the TinyGo 4K by GEPRC and the TinyHawk 3 by EMAX. So if you're a new pilot trying to get into this hobby, this is the video for you. With that said, welcome to the RTF challenge. Alright guys, so we have two of our RTF kits here. These are one of the most popular kits on the market. I get a lot of comments and emails about these two kits right here. And this one here, the EMAX TinyHawk 3, was just released last week. Now the TinyGo 4K has been released almost now. It's been close to a year, probably 11 months. This month is gonna be a year. So this might show its age. I've done extensive reviews on both of these kits, so I'll leave links down below where you can find information and video about these two kits. So this is how we're going to conduct this challenge. We have 4 categories and each categories have subcategories. Each subcategory gets a score or a point, and at the end we have a total score. At that point, you'll be the decider which kit is right for you. So let's begin. Okay, so we're going to start off with the first category, which is the overall kit completeness. And that means what is included with each of these kits. We're going to start here with the TinyGo 4K, and it includes a carry case or carry bag, a radio, the drone, a goggles obviously, and then we have batteries for the drone. As far as the TinyGo is concerned, it's very similar as well. We have a carrying case, really nice color, bright, and it looks very modern. We also have a radio here, some goggles, the drone itself, and a battery. The only difference here is that the battery that's included with the TinyGo, you have only one battery. On the other hand, GEPRC, we have 2 sets of batteries. So that's good for 2 flights. Now this is a 2S drone, so it does require 2 batteries per flight. But GEPRC does include 4 batteries total for a total of 2 sets of battery. And that's pretty good. So in that case, this kit gets the nod for total completeness. Okay, so the next category is the radio or the transmitter. GEPRC has this nice transmitter here. It's not a full-size radio, but it's close to it. Not a small radio either, but this is an 8-channel radio, which is really good. So that's a point for this one. It does have 8 channels. Now let's talk about the one for the EMAX. This one here is also an 8-channel, so it also gets a point, which is really awesome. The next thing to know here on this radio is that this one here is completely labeled. So if you're a new pilot trying to get into the FPV hobby and you don't know what all these switches do, it's clearly marked on here what they do. So that's pretty cool. As far as this drone, we also have some aux switches on here as well. There are 3 position switches and 2 position switches, but they're not labeled. I don't know if this is the arm or if this is the arm. Besides that, I don't know if this is aux 1 or this is aux 1. I don't know if this is aux 1 here or aux 3. It could vary. So the labeling on this isn't the greatest. So that's 1 point for the GEPRC kit. Now let's talk about the gimbals on here. The gimbals on this is really nice, almost like a full-size gimbal, but it's not perfect. I've talked about that numerous times when I did the review on the TinyGo 4K. It's light, but especially the throttle, it's very stiff. There's not really any good articulation with some of these gimbals. It does feel like a cheap plastic gimbal or a cheap plastic radio. As far as the gimbals on this radio here by EMAX, it is really nice. This is the E8 transmitter and this thing is smooth. It doesn't feel sticky on the throttle, it feels very good. And yeah guys, this thing, you can't tell it's plastic. Even the material on the outside, well, we know it's plastic, but it feels like it's a coating on here. But the gimbals on this is significantly better than the gimbals on the GR8. All right, as far as the batteries on these radios, for the GR8, it requires 4 AA batteries, and that could be a good or positive thing or a negative thing depending on how you look at it. In my case, I do have a lot of these batteries in the house, so that's good. Now for this one, the E8, it does have a battery built into it. It comes with it. This is an 18650 battery. And not only does it come with the kit and included, this is also rechargeable. So you can just recharge this whenever you want to via this micro USB port. So in my opinion, this is the better option. Never once do I have to go and buy new batteries. Now each battery has a shelf life, but I don't have to buy 4 batteries, which is probably the price of just one 18650 battery. So the radio with the TinyHawk 3 has a better battery supply. And last but not least is sim support. If you're a new pilot, you do want to practice in the sim. But that said, this radio here does not support any simulator. In fact, there's no ports on this radio. So that can't be done. And that's a big disappointment with this kit, was that this doesn't have any SIM support. Now, the radio for the TinyHawk 3 does have SIM support. You have a micro USB port right here. You can use a cable from here to the computer and use this as a joystick or as a radio to control your SIM on the computer. So that is a lifesaver. Having SIM support and practicing the SIM is a big thing. So with that said, this does get the check on that. Okay, so moving on to the next category, we'll talk about the goggles here. And this is a nice goggles. This is a goggles from GEPRC. There's no real name or branding on this, but this is a pretty good goggles. In fact, before buying this kit right here recently, this was my main and only analog goggles that I've used for the past couple of years. You have two antennas. It's not confirmed that they're diversity, but there's two antennas in here, and normally I do fly this with aftermarket antennas. Besides that, this is a full featured goggles. You have every feature here available. You have a power, you have a menu to change settings in here as far as your saturations or brightness of your screen. You also have other stuff here like your band and channel buttons to select different channels for your drone. And if you can't do that, you can actually hit the search button and it will search for the frequency of your drone, the VTX in your drone. The cool thing about this one is that it has a built-in DVR. You just hit the record button and it records your flight, which is really good in case you lose your drone or if you just want to show off your tricks to your friends and family on social media. This is the Transporter 2. This is a newer version of their older goggles. And this one is pretty cool too. Now, this is a really nice design. As I said, this is a more modern, more recent kit, and it looks the part. It's very slim. You have this diopter that can be adjusted. So if you have visual impairments or you want to adjust for your eyesight, that is available. All right, pretty cool. The strap on this one here is also really, really nice, guys. Besides that, this has all the same functions as the goggles in the GEPRC. So yeah, as far as the goggles, guys, this is a tie. They're both box style goggles. The only exception is that this one has a more modern design and it is more versatile. And why is that? Because this screen here does come off and turn into a field monitor. This is a really cool trick, and this gets one extra point for that versatility, having a monitor built into your goggles. All right, guys, so the last and final category is the drone. This thing is made pretty well. It has a nice big plastic canopy. You have these ducts here, and on these ducts you also have a foam bumper. So if you crash into anything like a tree or wall, there won't be any damage. I've had this thing for close to a year now, and everything in this drone is original. Everything is original. The propellers, these are the same propellers that came with the drone out the box. Same antenna, same VTX antenna, same VTX, same receiver. Everything on here is operational. Everything on here still works. So as far as the build quality on this thing is A+, guys, A+. Now the build quality of this one here is not bad either. I can tell that it's not as strong as the TinyHawk, but it might be as durable because you have these flexible bumpers on here. There's really no foam bumpers to protect this, but the nature of this drone here, injected molded plastic, this is gonna be very durable. So I don't think there's gonna be any issues with this as well. As far as premiumness, I would say the TinyGo 4K has more premium products on here. And we'll talk about that when we get to the other subcategories. All right, so the next thing we want to talk about here is what is powering this drone. So in this case, the TinyGo 4K is powered by a 2-cell battery, and the design here is very similar. You have a little tray under here, and you can fit either 1S, in this case, 2 1S batteries, and they've also included that with this drone. And two things about this with this kit is that because it's a 2S drone, you're gonna have a lot more power, especially for flying outdoors, which is amazing. And these batteries also have a higher capacity, so 530 milliamp hour versus 450 on the TinyHawk 2. So as you can see, 2 batteries, 2-cell, that gives it a lot more power. As far as the TinyHawk 3, same size of battery, it's a 1S. And here we are, we have the 450 milliamp hour that came with the kit. And that's cool. This drone is very light because of it, so you're gonna have very efficient flights. But the downside to this being so light and having a 1S power is that, well, if you fly this thing outdoors with anything more than 5 miles an hour wind, this thing will be tossed and be influenced by the weather. I've flown this drone obviously a whole bunch of times, and it's significantly heavier, especially with the 2 batteries. And that's gonna give it more stability when it's flying, less susceptibility to weather or wind changes. And that is true. You also have these more powerful motors with the 2S batteries. So this thing, I find it more outdoors than indoors. All right, the next subcategory is flight characteristics. And this drone really shines outdoors. It does have the versatility to fly both indoors and outdoors, but it does shine outdoors for sure. As far as flying it indoors, it works as well, but the combination of the sticky sticks here on the radio and it being a 2S drone, it might be a little bit too much for indoors, but it does work. Now, as far as the TinyHawk 3, this thing is superb indoors, like really awesome. So when deciding on these two kits, decide if you want to fly indoors or outdoors. This thing flew amazingly well indoors. I don't know any environments where there's no winds less than 5 miles an hour. Maybe late in the evening or early in the morning, you might get a calm morning and you can fly this, but sometimes you do want to fly outdoors, and this is not the drone for flying with windy conditions. So the next subcategory would be the camera on the drone. This one here is the Cadix lowest camera. It's a 4K camera, so that's wow. That's super amazing, guys. Now, the special thing about this drone is that it has a built-in DVR. So, as I said before, you're gonna have an analog signal going to your goggles recording analog footage, but this has a built-in DVR and it does record in 4K at 60 frames per second. This is really unheard of in this category, and this is what sold me on this drone. Obviously, I do make YouTube videos, but when I'm flying, I do wanna capture my flight, whether it's in regular standard definition or in Ultra HD or 4K footage. If you do care about image quality, this is the drone for you guys. I don't think there's anything better on the market than the TinyGo 4K. Now, the camera on this one here is also analog. It's not a 4K camera, obviously. This is the Runcam Nano 4, and I've had some good experience with this camera as well. I think this camera produces the best image, or the best colors is a better way to put it, the best colors of any analog camera I've flown so far. Yeah, guys, the camera is good. This is a new camera in the market, so that's why, in my opinion, it has such a good color, good image. It is adequate, it is good, but having the flexibility and the options to record 4K, it's amazing, guys. All right, so talking about the camera, the next subcategory is the VTX and the VTX power. So this has a external or a separate VTX. It's right here, and it's a power adjustable VTX all the way up to 200 milliwatts. And you have this linear dipole antenna, and this thing works surprisingly well, guys. With 200 milliwatts, I've gotten the advertised 300 meters pretty easily, guys. The VTX in this is pretty good. If this VTX were to fail, you can change it. And on top of that, it's a legit external VTX in the sense that you can change these antennas. There's a connection right here, a UFL connection. You can just pop this connection off and then change the antenna. Now, that was my goal when I first got this, and I said, you know what, in 3 months or 2 months, I'll just upgrade the antenna. But because this thing performs so well, I had no need to actually upgrade the antennas. And that's why a lot of guys, after I made my TinyGo 4K videos, a lot of guys were saying, hey, have you upgraded the antenna? How do you upgrade the antenna? I really never got to it because this thing here was so good. The VTX in this is pretty good as well. It is a separate board as well, but the difference here is that this antenna is soldered on directly onto the VTX, so you really can't change or upgrade this antenna. Furthermore, the power is the same as this. It is adjustable from 25 all the way to 200 milliwatts. So they're very similar as far as power output or max power output. But I did notice that this one did perform a little bit worse or had less range than the TinyGo 4K. All right, so the last subcategory in the drones would be the RX, the receiver, and its protocol. So in this case, we have a full-size receiver in here, which is pretty awesome. It has a bind button and everything. Everything is pretty good, guys. Now, this has an FHSS protocol. Not very popular, but the radar does have that protocol as well. Guys, I've never experienced a fail-safe, so the range on this is pretty good. You also have 2 antennas here, so you have almost like diversity antennas, which is really good. This drone is very reminiscent of a full-size drone. All the components on here are very similar. So you have a full-size VTX, you have a full-size receiver. This is pretty cool. Now, as far as the receiver on this TinyHawk 3, it's an SPI receiver, uses FR Sky, and uses the D8 protocol. So this thing works really well, never had a failsafe either. The thing to note here is that the receiver is built into the flight controller board. So if that does fail, you have to replace the whole flight controller board or FC board. Besides that, you have this small little wiry antenna. As I said, it still works. You don't have the two antennas for diversity. If you take a turn, you have better reception with this one. With that said, the D8 protocol is more accessible. A lot of controllers, even aftermarket controllers, have that protocol. So if you do want to upgrade your radio in the future, you can do that, and this drone will work with that radio. So in that sense, just because of this protocol, I would say that's a win for the TinyHawk 3. The protocol is widely available and is supported. Now, I wish there was a better protocol on both of these drones. I really wish there was maybe D16 or maybe Express LRS. That'd be great. And as far as this one, I wish there was any protocol besides the FHSS, because there's no radio on the market. Well, there has to be radio on the market, but it's very few and far in between to find a radio that's compatible with that protocol. So in that sense, you are pretty much stuck with this radio to that drone. All right, guys, so that's the last category or last subcategory when it comes to the drones. So I have my notes here and I have my total here, all my tallies, so we can see which one actually won. You probably know by now because it's on the screen, but for me here, I have them right here written down. So looking at my phone here, the RTF challenge, I have TG for the TinyGo and TH for the TinyHawk here. So we have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have 14 points for the TinyGo 4K here. That's pretty good. And as far as the EMAX TinyHawk 3, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And we have 14 points here for the TinyHawk 3 RTF kit. So 14 points for both of these RTF kits. What does that mean? Is one better than the other? Unfortunately, that's up to you guys. That's really up to you. And I got a lot of comments before I made this video. Hey, which kit is better, the TinyGo 4K or the TinyHawk 3? And before I even made this video and made those parameters, I told those people that it's really up to you. It's really a draw. And it's not that one is better than the other. It's just that there's no perfect kit on the market. One kit may have a certain strength and one might have a weakness, and one might have a strength and one might have a weakness. For example, the radio on this one here is the weakest point of this whole kit, and the radio on this one is really good on this one. I do think the drone on this is the strongest point of this kit, but then the drone on this isn't as good. It's not a bad drone, it's just not as good. I do think the goggles, it's pretty much a tie, but you do have the flexibility of using it as a field monitor. So it all depends on what you want. Do you want a kit with a good remote? That's probably what you want. Do you want a kit with a really good and fun drone? It could be this one. So it depends on what you want. I actually chose this kit initially because it has the ability to upgrade, and that's proven me correct right now, because with ELRS and the small size of those ELRS receivers, I can use my full-size transmitter, put an ELS receiver on here, and then get better range and have a better experience with my new radio. But there's the other argument, guys. A lot of people like to have a kit where the other supporting parts are upgradable. So for example, there's a very good chance you're gonna outfly this drone or outgrow this drone, and you'll get a new drone regardless of the situation. You probably want a Cinewhoop, you might want an acro drone. So can I get a new drone with this supporting system, with this goggles and with this radio? Most definitely. If you get a drone with a receiver that has a D8 or D16, then this radio can do that. And this goggles here can also be compatible with that drone. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think. If you have either one of these drones, or you think maybe I'm biased or you're biased, let me know which one is the better kit in your opinion. I'll be happy to see those. And there's probably some points that you guys have that I didn't cover. So I do want to see if you have a valid point, and maybe it can help other pilots trying to get into the FPV hobby. So that would be greatly appreciated, guys. So this was a really fun video to make. I knew I was gonna make this video once I bought this kit. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, hit that like button. I really appreciate that. It makes the channel grow. It helps the algorithm, guys. And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Therefore, you'll be notified whenever I do make a new video, because I do have some more videos that I want to make with this kit here as well. So you do want to be subscribed for that. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace! you.